Dashboards, the author of The Big Picture, and usually, along with Amanda McCulloch, Jeff Schaefer, and Andy Cotgreave, one of the hosts of Chart Chat. And we are, in fact, using the platform at the moment so that we can do this wonderful collaboration with the curators of real-world fake data. And with that, let me introduce one of my colleagues who's joining me today, Mark Bradburn. Mark?
Hey, Steve. So Mark Bradburn, Tableau National Solutions Engineer, and during the pandemic, I founded Real World Fake Data, and thankfully, Jackie volunteered to help co-lead that effort now. So, Jackie?
Jackie Moore. I'm a Tableau evangelist and senior analytics consultant at Clear Intelligence, and I blog with my husband Brian at Do More with Data. And Mark graciously let me join the Real World Fake Data.
Well, it's proving to be one of my favorite initiatives. And hold on one second. I can see people are putting comments in. We're streaming live to YouTube, and there's a little pop out there. So if you want to say hello or share your thoughts on this, that would be great. Also, we are going to have a little after party afterwards where we'll have a Zoom meeting. So if you want to speak with some of the dashboard creators or chime in with your thoughts on this, we'd love to hear what do you think about this. With that in mind, let me walk you through what we're going to do today, which is, well, first, I got to give you the backstory behind this and kind of how we got here. And it's taken about 7 months since the, hey, this would be a cool idea to, we've got some wonderful solutions. And well, what was the data we had and what was the goal that we were trying to accomplish with this? And then let's look at some of the submissions that we've got. So, well, let me give you the backstory. This goes back to January 2023, and I was meeting with a new client, and they were asking for ideas on how best to present HR data. And I will tell you, I think HR data is really, really hard. And among the things they would eventually want to tackle was, how are we going to show cross-function mobility? Now, this is really hard. Cross-function mobility is where you're tracking someone who moves from one part of the organization to another part of the organization. That is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it's usually a sign of something that's healthy. You don't want someone stuck in the same place. You want someone who can contribute in more than one area. Well, this reminded me, as they were describing what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it, it reminded me of showing churn, which is hard. And it unfortunately gave me a little episode of, PTSD going back to the big book of dashboards, which was showing subscriber churn. This was really hard. It took a lot of iterations, a lot of collaboration to come up with a solution. But I got to say, it kind of pales in comparison with what this particular company was trying to do, because with subscriber churn, it's, well, how many people came in and how many people left, across different areas or whatever, but you're not showing, well, how many people move from here to here and then here to there and within this department to a different team within that department. So yeah, I'm kind of worried about this and thought, hey, you know what? Why don't we take a page from some of these wonderful social media data visualization initiatives like Real World Fake Data, which is, I think, what Jackie and Mark are doing and great, as well as a page from Tom Sawyer and whitewashing the fence. And instead of me doing it or us doing it, why don't we see what other people out there could do with this? And we got some wonderful submissions on a very difficult data set. So in fact, let me walk through this in a minute. In any case, cross-function mobility, this looks like a physics diagram showing Brownian movement or whatever, but you're trying to check, where did people come from within the organization and where did they move to? And is there something out of balance? Is there something, are people fleeing particular areas, or are they uncommonly attracted to another area? Also, we need to look at people who are coming into the organization and also people who are leaving the organization. And before I go any further, big thanks besides to Mark and Jackie for hosting this wonderful platform, Dorka Benko, who was instrumental in putting together the quote unquote fake data set. There's a lot of real stuff that's in here. And she was wonderful in pointing out all the mistakes that we're making and all the flaws in the data. We would not be where we are with this without her guidance on this, as well as the 5 people who put a lot of hours into this. Andrzej Leszkiewicz, Kevin Flerlage, Jack Hineman, Nicole Mark, and Dennis Cow. Thank you for taking this on. All right, let me show you the data that we're dealing with. Jackie, Mark, any comments before we dig in? Did I miss anything, or are we good?
No, you nailed it. I remember looking at this data initially, and it was scary in looking at it, just trying to figure out how to visualize this. And yeah, it was hard.
By the way,
It was very difficult. I took a lot of cuts at it, and it was a challenging data set for sure. So huge thanks to the people who stuck it out and came up with these dashboards.
Yeah, what was it that you pointed out, Jackie, today? That was it Nicole who put it at the on her submission?
Yeah, on Nicole's Tableau public. Still going to print a shirt that says "I survived real world big data after this challenge."
So
it about sums it up.
Got you. With that in mind, let me just share the data that we have here so people can look at, well, what are they dealing with? And we've got a list of employees. We've got 6 months worth of data going from November to April. And each employee is listed twice because we're looking at which department maybe gained an employee and which department or which team lost. So bunch of things going on. You have in this data set, there are 4 different departments. Within each department, there are multiple teams. So they're looking, did somebody move from one department to another department? And do they possibly, like department A to department C? If that happens, they change teams for sure. Someone may have, I'm hearing a little echo coming in. If you have this open on YouTube, it's going to repeat. So, so a department change, if there's a team change, that doesn't mean there was a department change, but if there was a department change, there was. So you can see employee 01, they just stayed. They never moved. They stayed on the same team, etc. We can see that there's some interesting stuff here. There was a department change in January that this person went from team went from team 1 to team 3. So the gainer was team 3 and the loser was team 1. It also had a department change that was involved in there. There were a bunch of things that tripped people up. My apologies. In particular, what was the movement type? And most of the time, there's no movement. Did they change team? Are they a newcomer? Did they leave the company? Or was there a department change? And this one messed other people up, and it totally messed me up as well. It was kind of a vestige that was left over. A leaver is someone who is going to leave next month, but you only know that after the fact. And I tripped a bunch of people up with this, and sorry we didn't remove that. Like to think, well, that's what real data is really like. You're going to run into these problems. In any case, hey, Jackie, Mark, anything else you think I need to point out about the data besides the fact that despite my best efforts, there are 2-3 places where the data is just messed up, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
I think it's, and it might not be important. It might just kind of go without saying, but there is no human resources system that is going to spit this data out. There's a huge data engineering piece that has to happen well before we get to this. And I think if someone's newer to the field, that might be worth pointing out.
Really good point. And in fact, the way I got the initial quote unquote fake data was not in this format. I eventually had to put it in this format so that using my tool of choice, which was Tableau, I could come up with stuff that would work. That would work. But realizing, gee, I need 2 rows of data for each employee for each month was an important thing that wasn't obvious or intuitive in first trying to tackle this. So that is an incredibly good observation. Well, some assumptions about this, omissions, questions, etc. So one thing is, let's assume we're just looking at high performers and high potentials in this. And I bring that up because you don't want someone who is a high potential leaving the company in under 1 year, because they have yet to really blossom. If you've got a terrible employee, my gosh, if they're out of there within a year, that's great. We didn't, that's a good thing. In this case, we're looking at people that are highly desirable. We only had one demographic, tenure. It was complicated enough, but you might have gender, age, ethnicity, all these different things. And is it, gee, why are so many people leaving that team, leaving that department? At the moment, the proxy for all of that is just tenure. And we had 0 to 1 year, 1 to 3 years, or 3 or more years. Wasn't looking at, hey, are people moving up within the organization? They've been promoted. This is just about going from one area to a different area. I try to avoid tenure changes in this 6-month period. So if someone started as 0 through 12 months or 1 to 3 years, they didn't change. Well, I messed up. There were, in fact, some people who had anniversaries and their tenure changed. And I had someone who went from being with the company for 3 years to going with the company for under a year, and that can't happen. Okay. So we weren't looking to do any correlation. Are the teams that have the most healthy amount of cross function mobility also the best producers? And do they have the highest satisfaction rates? Are they reaching all their goals? Didn't do any of that. And why are we getting different results from different people? That the number of, hey, how many people came into the organization? And 3 or 4 of us say 19 newcomers came in. Someone said, no, 18 people came in. Someone said, no, there's something wrong here. It must be 20. Why did that happen? And a request to everyone who submitted stuff, show all your back work. Jack Hineman, you have a couple of additional tabs in there that show your cross tabs, and they are great for figuring out what's going on. That is fantastic. So some of the best discussions I had with the submitters was around, hey, I looked at this and then I experimented with this and this helped me understand the data. And I realized we want to publish these pristine, beautiful pieces up on Tableau Public or whatever, but showing your back work can be really helpful. And well, I'm going to start by just showing some crude stuff I put together, and then we'll look at Nicole's, Dennis's, Kevin's, Andre's, and Jack's, and Mark and Jackie comment on what you like, what you think is brilliant, where maybe there's a few things that might have been the source of confusion, and so on. But let me start with, so I put together some simple visualizations and I inserted some signal into all of this. So let me make it so that people can see this a little larger, which is, I knew I had 19 newcomers, and here's where they went. Department A, Department B, Department C, and Department D. And here is anyone who left the company, where did they come from? Well, a lot of them came from Department D and then these other departments. So I can see overall I had 19 people coming in, 10 people leaving. And I can see these are the people who moved to Department A. These are the people who left Department A. Where did they go? These are the people who joined Department B. Here are the people who left. So Department A has a lot more people joining it. Department B, the net is about the same. Department C, a lot of volatility, but they ended up as many people came in as left, and same with Department D. Well, if I look at team movement, I start to see a very different thing. So Department D, just by itself, it looks like, yeah, this is good. They have balanced. As many people are coming in as are leaving. But if I look at team movement, wow, a lot of people seem to be leaving Team 9. And in fact, not only did they leave Team 9, of the 10 people who left the company, 4 of them came from Department 9. So I intentionally put in some signal into the data that I wanted people to find. A bunch of people found it, a bunch of people found other things, but these were the kind of the simple visualization I put together just to get a sense of, can I find the signal? Can I see where the differences are, etc. So with that, let me start sharing. Oops, sorry about that. And we'll look at, I've already got this queued up someplace. Let me find it. And opened this a while ago, so I will refresh it. And so here is Nicole's scrolling dashboard. So up here we've got headcount by department and team as of the beginning of the time frame that we're looking at. And I know you had different colors on here, and I'm not sure why they're rendering here, but you said Department A is in this color, Department B is here. So I'll try refreshing that again and see if we can't get that to come out. In any case, this is sort of your preamble to it. So here's the head count. I'm not going to look at the retention rates on this because I'll confess I didn't look into the analysis of that. Here's a key takeaway that you put in. Here are a summary of employee movements, how many people changed departments, changed teams, newcomers left company, headcount by department, overtime, headcount by team. Here's what I think is a really great finding. Oh my gosh, the team at one point peaked at 11 people. There's only one person left in Team 9 at this point. Team changes that are here, that change departments. Team change, 11 people left Team 9, 11 people left Team 6, but they may have been replaced. And percentage of separated employees by tenure at length, and that 80% of the people who left the company were only employed for under a year. Although Jack got somewhat different results, and that's because of problem with the data. So either Jackie or Mark, you want to weigh in on your thoughts on this?
I mean, I liked, so as I was looking through these, I kind of saw that there were 2 approaches like people took. One was kind of this report where the findings are articulated and as if you would deliver a report that would be created and analyzed with findings delivered. And then a couple that would be more like a production business dashboard that automatically refreshes and you kind of explore it yourself. But I liked how she sets the context and the color scheme right up here at the top. She called it the key findings are all called out nicely. And it kind of follows the storyline to this more granular analysis of the mobility. So I liked those aspects of it.
Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I really like it. Almost reads like a newspaper, and so I'm picturing an executive getting this and basically kind of paging through it. I like the key findings because honestly, a lot of times executives just don't have the attention span to like read through all the details. So basically giving those high level summaries, and if they want to kind of dive a little bit deeper, they can read more of the text. There's one thing that is missing from this that I noticed is on the chart by month, there's no month axis. So I'm not sure until I go into, so it's the line chart and the bar chart below.
Oh, this one, right? You don't know that this is one.
Yeah. So like even just a start and an end, just to anchor it. But other than that, like it's really clean and it's really easy to follow.
Any thoughts on the colors?
So I will be honest, like when I first looked at it, I was just a touch confused as I was looking at it until I kind of tied the top bar chart to the big numbers. Then I'm like, oh, okay, this is matching departments. But then a little bit later, there's just some color reuse with the orange, which now it went from Department D to Team 9, that what we're focused on. So I don't know. There's probably a debate to be had there as to is that okay or not, because then it's reused again for like the 80% for tenure. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
I picked up on the same thing, the association of the color to the department because of the color coding of the bands and the bar chart at the top. And even, Team 9 is part of Department D, so I was okay with there. I did get confused in the last couple of visualizations, the stacked bar here and the pie chart where the orange kind of changes meaning. But there are clear labels, but I did kind of assume that the color was following through with the entire thing until I looked closer at that part.
Fair point. It threw me as well. The other thing that Jackie you pointed out is Nicole and several of the other contributors created this wonderful curated results based on the data as of this time frame, and what happens 2 months from now, and it's going to require that type of analysis and helpfulness on the part of whomever is building this thing to let the consumer of this know, here are things that we think are really important in this data, as opposed to something that's just going to update. And there are a bunch of questions about scalability of this stuff. It's a relatively small organization, around 100 employees. What happens when you have thousands of employees? And we're looking at 6 months of data. Does at some point this thing collapse if you have to look at 24 months of data and you're looking at it monthly? I would say, well, that's, when you see some of the other things, it's just almost too much to take in. Also, notice Nicole has 18 newcomers. I and several other people have 19 newcomers, and Jack has 20 newcomers. And what's up with that? And it's a lot of it has to do with those levers that I ended up leaving in the data. And Jack was very generous, and I'll explain why a bit later. So Nicole, stellar job, and I know this was hours in the making, and I know a bunch of people are going to look at this and go, there's a bunch of really good things in here, and 2 really great takeaways that immediately make this A+. The what has happened to Team 9, and of the 10 people who left, 8 of them are never got to blossom. They were in that 0 to 1 year period. So bravo.
And Steve, just to expand on the one thing you're talking about as we talk about business data and how things scale within a dashboard, I've started using the phrase perfect data syndrome when we talk about a dashboard that's finished, and it's great with the the data that we have in that current moment, but it's the, idea that we constantly have to iterate on dashboards as our data changes and fluctuates so that we don't get trapped into a bad design once our data scales past the usability of the dashboard that we've made in that point in time. So I think it's important for us to realize that dashboards need to be a living, breathing organism, and it's not just something we build and put away.
Also,
I also think it's one of those, it depends circumstances, right? Like you say, if you hired a management consultant to come in and see how your high performers are with staying with the company and where they're going, if you hired somebody to come in, you might want a one-time report that would look really nice like that has all of the findings clearly articulated. you clearly couldn't schedule a dashboard like that to automatically refresh monthly. Somebody has to do that analysis, but the findings wouldn't necessarily be as clear. So it's one of those, it depends what was the use case, right?
Exactly.
And a big tip of the hat to um, Jackie and to Nicole and others who made their workbooks downloadable. So not only was there time and effort that went into this thing, wrong button, sorry, but the hey, and I'm going to let you see how I built this thing. So if there's something that you really like and found effective, you can include it in your own work. And that's just one of the hallmarks of this community that I like so much about it. All right, let's look at HR cross-functional mobility from Dennis Cow. And I can't speak for my colleagues here, but I think I know Dennis from his incredible work with maps. And well, now he can do incredible work with stuff that isn't a map also. So, very briefly, we've got a 6-month time frame over here. Here's the head count over that time frame, which tripped people up. Here's when there were, Here's when there were team changes in January and February. Here's when there were department changes. By the way, if there's a department change, there has to be a team change. 2 newcomers in November, this many newcomers, and we can see where they went by the color coding, Department A, B, C, and D. And yes, I can highlight each of these things. I can see what happened here. Currently in Department A, so as I look at Department A, I'm looking for things that are this pinkish yellow, but if I see something that isn't pinkish yellow, they must have come from someplace else. And I can see, so the color coding is here, but also I have a symbol. A plus means, hey, a newcomer coming into the company. An X is someone who left the company. And the size is their tenure. And I can see left the company, newcomer, department change. And there's highlighting in this as well. If I want to just highlight everyone who left the company or all the newcomers that are here, I can see that I love the highlighting. I think I'd like these other things to be way more muted when I do the highlighting on it, so that I can really just see, wait a minute, I just want to look at the team changes thing. No, I just want to look at the department changes. And easy enough for me to say, somebody else has to actually implement it. So love that the highlighting is there, but I would want everything I don't care about to become very muted as opposed to a little bit more pronounced. So Mark, I think you weighed in first with the other one. Jackie, do you want to weigh in on this one?
Yeah, I think Dennis packed a lot of information in with the encoding on size and shape and color. There's a lot that can be explored here. To our previous discussion, this is one it would refresh, right? You wouldn't have the analysis isn't there. The analysis is presented for you to kind of take out the findings yourself, but it's certainly packed full in a small amount of space with a lot of information that can be gleaned from it.
Mark?
Yeah, so it's funny. When I was initially playing with the data, I actually landed on a very similar kind of small multiple idea of trying to show movement this way. So I'm partial. I like this. I think the designer had some brilliant ideas. The one thing that just I don't know, there's a lot going on just from a shape, size, and color. One of my favorite books that I've been reading is The Laws of UX. And there's this corollary of Miller's law, where basically it's like the human mind can only hold so many things before it has to go back and look at legends and things to just check the reference. This might be pushing the boundary of it just a bit. But I feel like it's contained enough that it's not over that line. but I really like it. And as far as the highlighting, that's a Tableau thing. Like if this was actually on a light background, that highlighting would be more muted. So that's just a design choice. But I think actually on Do More with Data, I think Brian actually figured out, or Jackie, I forget which one of you wrote it, but figured out how to do the muted highlighting on dark backgrounds. So go to domorewithdata.com to find that tip.
By the way, look, Dennis had to have spent hours on this thing.
Oh yeah.
And, when I had given feedback and, everybody, pretty much everyone Nicole did 2 totally different dashboards. There's another one that built, and I feel terrible saying, "Oh, this is amazing," and you donated all your time, and do you mind making it a little better for me, please? It seems, but it would be, I'm sure, if these things were to be in production as opposed to, hey, here are ideas that we have and what I'm approaching it. Yes, that would be easy enough to implement, to have that in there. I shared Jen's comment, which is, boy, it's hard to show what happened and when it happened and all these different things that are going on. I have the privilege of having been living with this data set for a while. And by the way, it took a long time to take it from, oh, let's just get a data set and just, give it to the world, to, oh, let's get a data set. Let's get one that's in the right format. Let's get one that has a signal in it and give it to the world. But I'm forgetting how overwhelming this can be. But there's a bunch of stuff that's happening in here. It's, whoa, the leaving the company all happened in this 3 month period. And a lot of people left the company in February. And that immediately begs a question, well, what happened then? Well, we have no idea. There's, this is mock data in this thing, but that is bubbling up. And a good dashboard doesn't just answer questions, it also generates new questions. And I think Dennis has captured that here. The other thing is, we're not seeing here, because it's more, it's Dennis focused on departments. You could have a whole nother view that is then looking at the teams. So it's that I can see that Department B headcount's down. Actually, it's about the same as where it started. But you can't see that Team 9 is down to just one person in this. And I think in chatting with Dennis, he acknowledged that, and it would require a different treatment of these things, but it would probably bubble up in the same way that I can see when the newcomers came in really easily, left the company. I can see, oh my God, Team 9 is down to one person. All right. Any comments before we move on to the next one, which will be from Kevin?
No.
Right. And there we go. Kind enough to refresh in real time here. And so combination of both interactive, exploratory, and a curated result, that we can see something is happening with Team 9. And the same way, Mark, that you were so attracted to Dennis's because he took an approach that was similar to the way you were thinking of it, I'm attracted to this because hey, how many people came in, how many people left, and what was the net for these things? Now, I can count on one hand the number of times where I think a SAN key is warranted in a business context, and I think this works incredibly well here. So some of the things that I can look at is I can look at, I just want to look at Team 9, and I can see that, wow, a lot of them left, and a lot of them went to Team 10, and a lot of them left the company completely. In fact, if I'm curious, where did people who left the company come from? Really easy to see what's going on with this here. And where they came from, and it's Department D, and specifically Team 9 and Team 10. So what else so I'm seeing the balance. Team 9 is way out of balance. Team 10 is out of balance, I guess because of Team 9. And just love the sand key. And I know this isn't so easy with sand keys, but if these are high performers and we're particularly concerned about the people who have not yet blossomed, people who are here for under a year, we've got a filter, and we can just focus in on that and see, well, what's up with the newcomers that are here, and where did they go? And I thought we had a bunch of newcomers who, in fact, left the company. Oh, no, sorry. These are people who are here for under a year. And I can see that these are all people who are here from under a year. And look how many of them left the company, which is not what you want to see with a high performer. So love the curation of this at the top, although, if you had 12 months of data, that might not be, but the who's coming in, who left, effective use of color. And I'm pretty sure, Kevin was weighing, do I do a gradient on these things? Is the thickness enough? And kind of weighing these things. But the interactivity is really effective. So Mark, I'll pick on you.
Yeah, no. I really like Kevin's take on it. I'm a huge fan of the joined, moved left visual. It's kind of like a waterfall on its side a bit. But it's so easy to visualize the magnitude of who left, and like Team 9 immediately just kind of pops out, even without the balance points it out too. But I don't know, I really like, it's just really smart. I'm a big fan of that. And I agree, like this kind of movement between teams coming in, leaving, it does lend itself to a Sankey, and it's very rare that you get to say that comfortably. So yeah, overall, I really dig this.
And Kevin is currently agreeing with me. 19 newcomers and 10 left the company. Nicole had 18 and 10. So we'll see what the culprit is behind that. Jackie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just thought that the combination of this kind of waterfall-ish dashboard and then the total number and the Sankey, I think it all works really well together. The Sankey, this data just really wanted to be visualized as a Sankey. Kevin focused on the aggregate numbers, where some people were focusing on the time. So I think he made a decision to focus in on the total, but I think it's really effective.
Well, likewise, and notice that there isn't the November, December. Here's what happened for this 6-month time period, not what happened in a particular month. That's there. And Kevin has a life. I'm sure, if this were part of a real job or whatever, he could get into that as well. But all these things should be, adding to one's toolkit. Oh, that was really effective. Hey, this is a cool use of the, shape here. And this particular Gantian waterfall type of thing, where 6 in, 2 down leaves us with a net of 4, I think is really effective. So bravo, and a lot of great stuff in this. All right, let's shift gears, unless Mark, Jackie, any comments on that? Let's look at something from Andrzej Leszkiewicz, who not only put this amazing piece of work together, he put together a video, and I'm sure Mark and Jackie will have a recap of all of this at Real World Fake Data. I will have it at Data Revelations, where you can find all these dashboards. So this is a Power BI, but rendered in Deneb dashboard. And it's, apparently Andrzej did this, all in one sheet using Deneb. And my first take on this was, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's really designed as an interactive dashboard want you to explore stuff. And for whatever reason, I'm very concerned about people leaving our wonderful company. That we have a great company and these are high performers. So I just want to focus on them. And maybe I have to refresh this. Nope, there we go. And all right, here's everybody who left the company. And I can just see Department D left company, Department A left. So here are the 10 people who left, highlighted. Here's when they left. Here's the tenure of when they left. All really easy to see, as well as the supporting sand key in this. And in fact, I can click anything. Gee, I'm interested in, let's say, hey, I'm responsible for Department C. So I'm going to look at Department C and see what happened with it. Oh, we're got a bunch of people coming from Department B. We got a bunch of newcomers coming here. I guess they heard how wonderful we are. And we have a bunch of people coming from Department A. So these are the gainers. But now I'm interested in Department C as the losers. Let me see if I can get, there we go. We've got the highlighting working. And I can see everyone who left the department that I'm responsible for. Or, gee, I just want to look at this particular combination of the elements and see where Department A is a gainer and Department C as a loser comes into play. Oh, Department C to Department A, 7 people, when it happened, and what the tenure is of the stuff. Now, let me get rid of the focus that's there, but that's by department. He's also doing this by teams. So I can see what's happening with that. And if I'm, again, really curious about people who left the company, I can see, 9 people from Team 9 left the company and 3 people from Team 10. Or if I'm really curious about, where the biggest gainers are on this thing. Well, the biggest gainers are sadly on left the company, but they're also on Team 10. Well, where did they come from? And as with what Kevin put together, maybe I just want to look at just the people who've been for under a year. And we can see 8 people who are here under a year left the company. Well, where did the rest of them go? And where did they end up? Other things that he's got going on, I'm going to go back to departments and not be focusing on new hires. This expanded color scheme, I found this a little hard to deal with, but what he's trying to show is we've got 5 different departments, Department A, B, C, and D, and newcomers. But then if you just focus on particular things, maybe having the expanded color scheme helps you see what's going on. Don't know. I find it's a little much. And I think Andrzej may say it's a little much, but he wanted to experiment with it. Also, he started looking into actuals versus percent of totals. And I think when we were looking at teams on this, I remember looking at, and it just had me asking a bunch of questions, which is, wait a minute, 75% of Team 10 left the company? Well, it was how many people were in the company at that particular month. So when you decide to do what is your numerator and what is your denominator, and do you take the overall, or is it a particular period of time? The is a question, but it did have me looking at the data and going, what does it mean that many people left? And I started looking at what was the head count for Team 10 over time, etc. I haven't focused that much on the supporting sand keys that are going on in here, and that when you highlight the particular thing that you're interested in, I'm going to go back to the actual count versus the percentages, and we'll go back to departments. And I'm really interested in Department A, and I can see who moved, who are the newcomers coming in, etc. So they've got the supporting sand keys. I'm seeing some comments that are going on here on how effective people are finding the heat map that's here. And I agree with that. I'm finding that one of the most effective, along with the marginal histogram showing the total counts that are along the top. So my apologies for droning on so long, but I wanted everyone watching this thing to see there's a lot of functionality that's built into this thing, and a lot of stuff I didn't notice until I started clicking and seeing what the relationships were on this. So the Andrzej presents the questions he's trying to answer, but he is not curating the results. This is now pure, here's something that's exploratory, and I'm going to let you look at what you think may be interesting, leaving the company, your favorite department, your least favorite department, and you can see what's going on with that. And with that, either Jackie or Mark, either of you want to pipe in?
Well, legally and contractually. Oh, go ahead, Jackie.
What I was going to say, so I really appreciated seeing all of the iterations on being posted on Twitter. I thought that was an interesting process to kind of follow through. And then I really I especially actually like the movements between departments view along with the Sankey. I would even, expand those so that they correlate even more. But this monthly Sankey showed me something that I didn't see before, which was that in December, there seemed to be this hiring spree followed by a couple of big exoduses. And you can kind of see where that happened and what teams, and that was kind of a different way to see it that I don't think without the monthly Sankey, it wasn't showing. So that was really effective to me because it showed me things that I didn't see in any of the other ways that the data was sliced.
Yeah. So sorry. Yeah, I wanted to highlight what you were pointing out is you can really see a lot of people coming in December. And we can also see that here. We've got the November, December, January, February, March, April, and the activity that's happening there. Let me go back to departments on this too. Oh, I'm on departments, so we're good. So you can see that there's a lot of people coming in, and you can see clearly there's a lot of people leaving in February as well. And what are you
There's a lot going on
obligated to say or not say, Mark?
I was basically making a joke saying contractually and legally I'm not allowed to comment on anything made in Power BI as a Tableau employee, but I jest. I will be completely honest. When I first saw this, the iterations happening on Twitter, I was like, wow, this is a lot. But once I got to kind of interact with it a bit, it's like a fabulous analyst dashboard. If I was an HR analyst and I had this tool to be able to kind of look at this cross-functional mobility, it does allow you to uncover a lot of insights. I'm a huge fan of the marginal histogram. I like that. I think is probably one of the more effective visuals in this whole project across all of the visuals that were submitted. I really like that take on it. And to Jackie's point, that Sankey, the way that it's segmented out across months is a really nice visual. I would almost wonder if you could do some sort of kind of show hide on the Sankey because it is a lot to look at visually. But from an analyst standpoint, they're probably a professional chart looker adder like you are, Steve. And they're not going to be so overwhelmed with it. I would never drop this in front of an executive, or even, a manager. But yeah,
a key finding from it, you might.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might. Ooh, I found something really great in this that I wouldn't have without this amazing interactive story finder. I think that's what a dashboard is for. And so a wonderful way of articulating comes from Amanda McCulloch, dashboards for story finding versus storytelling. But once I started interacting with this, a bunch of stuff popped. When you just see this image, it's like, wow, there's a lot going on here. So in complete agreement with you on that. Well, we've got one more, and then I'll reveal why people got different numbers in this, under the data. And then anyone who wants to hang, we will have an after party on Zoom where you can share your ideas. And I can see a bunch of the dashboard creators are here, and hopefully they'll be joining us as well. So we'll end our discussion with this sumptuous piece of map layer work from Jack Hineman, who also made the dashboard fully downloadable. He's done some really great human resource dashboards and some really effective ways of showing retention over time. But he ended up building a sequence of sand keys that highlight a bunch of things that are happening. And, let me use the zoom feature of one's browser. Wish this were just built into the tool to allow us to see what's going on here. But he's got the big ass number here. Between October 21 and February 2022, the company was able to onboard 20 employees. And we can see here are the new hires. And here's where they went by department and by each team. And we can see, as Jackie, you pointed out, something that says, wow, a lot of stuff happening in November. And it's easily to see what's happening there. I gotta point out, there's a bunch of subtle things that really make it easy to follow where these people landed. Like this person's going to team 7, and notice that the blue here is brighter. Same with the yellow here and joining team 4. So where did they come from? Where did they end up? And the amount of craftsmanship to put this together. And so making sure that these things land at the right place in the sand key, it's really something. So, and he's not highlighting it, but I can see, we had a lot of leavers in February and January and March, and where are these people coming from? However, 40% of those new hires wound up leaving the company. So here are the new hires, and we can follow their route. Look at this one. Ended up in Department B and eventually left the company. And these new hires, where did they go? They're in team. No, not team 9. You don't want to be in team 9. You're going to end up possibly moving or leaving the company. Only 10 total employees left the company in total. Only one had more than 1 year of tenure, with none over 10 years. Okay, well, I didn't get that. Nicole didn't get that. And that's because of a problem with the underlying data. But, we can see where they are, where they're coming from. Out of the 12 employees that passed through team 9, only 1 employee remains. I didn't see that. I saw it in Nicole's. I eventually saw that in my own data, but team 9 at one point had 14 people, I think, and now it's down to just 1 person. And Jack was able to find it and showcase it pretty effectively here. Despite the chaos within Department D, 90% of the employees that passed through team 8 also stayed with the team. So look at the effective use of highlighting here. That I'm absolutely focusing on what Jack wants me to focus on. So the muted purple versus the higher intensity purples. Department C has built roots within the organization. Only 1 employee out of 51 that passed through Department C left the company. So let's see if we can find out. Oh, here's where they are. And again, it's that highlighting that's allowing me to see what's happening here. Department A has retained 83% of its employees that passed through the department, the highest rate of any department. And Department B recorded a 1-to-1 employee mobility with 5 employees moving into and 5 out. I think I got slightly different results, but again, there are some aspects that are squirrely with the data. So Mark, Jackie, thoughts, comments, and do you want me to focus on any of these things in particular?
Nothing to focus on in particular, but the thing that I really like about this, and I'm reminded of Andy Cogree's presentation, Clear and Present Danger, where he talks about presenting data. The way this is laid out, it looks like slides that you're going to present in an HR meeting. And the use of highlighting, like you pointed out, the big number, the summary at the top, like I feel like it's such an effective way to point out what the story is. You're focused on exactly what you're looking at. And you know, it's just, I don't know, it's just, it was probably like, as far as the Sankey, it's just really clean. It's easy to follow. And a lot of that has to do with the highlighting and, like you said, the craftsmanship around it. So yeah, I really love the way this turned out.
Jackie, thoughts? I really liked how it walked through the story, and that Jack surfaces some findings that, first of all, they're not presented in charts. This is analysis that's presented, like a report or presentation that you would make. And you know, the story that stood out to everybody was this Team 9 issue, right? But he also did some analysis on things, you know, positive aspects, like the teams where people are staying around or where they have the highest tenure. And that's something that I think was overlooked as we really focused in on this Team 9 environment. And the colors were really effectively used. It's just a really nicely put together dashboard.
And I got to spend some time with Jack and have, you know, discussion of how he looked at the stuff. Jack shared some of the crosstabs that he has that helped him understand the data and find where it was flawed. And he created a you know, curated results on these things. You know, easily could have gone down another path and did something like Andrzej did, which was the an interactive dashboard. But what I found remarkable is, look, I've been living with this data set and inserted signals into the data. There's a bunch of stuff that Jack and other folks that I didn't even know was in the data. So briefly, why it is that we didn't get the same results. Jack pointed out to me that, hey, employee 66, there's no data for them in November and December. So if they appeared for the first time in January, they got to be, you know, either they have to have been here in November or December, or they were a newcomer. And I said to Jack, hey, thank you. I messed up. And Jack said, why don't you just tell people you intentionally put these flaws in the data as part of making it real world? And it was done. Yeah, that's right. I was speaking with my good friend, Elon Musk. We were at a party for George Santos. Yeah. And they said, why don't you make this stuff up so it's more realistic? Yeah, that's it. No, I messed up, but thank you, Jack. It was very kind. The tenure analysis. Oop, come on in here. Is I didn't want to have any tenure changes, but in fact I did. And you can't have someone who is with the organization from 0 to 1 year and then jump to 3+ years. Also, you can't have someone who is with the organization from 1 to 3 years and then suddenly later only be with the company for under a year. So, and as for why I got 19 and Kevin got 19 and others got 19, it was there are 19 newcomers, excuse me, but if we look at the movement type, one of them left almost immediately, and was, if you looked at this field instead of this field, they got marked as a leaver as opposed to a newcomer, and that's why I think Nicole got 18 instead of 19. In any case, there we go. That is, there were flaws in the data. I'm responsible for them. They were not intentional by any means, but thank you. And
hey, that's the real world.
I know, but let me get a little wrap up on this stuff. So here is where you can find us. So I'm at Data Revelations, Mark in a variety of places, including Sons of Hierarchies, which is where you can find real world fake data. And Jackie Moore at Do More with Data. Boy, I like the name of that URL. I will have a recap of this at opic.me/recap1. So wait, I want to get those amazing workbooks from Nicole and Kevin and Dennis and Andrzej and from Jack. Where can I find them? Where can I missed some of the video. I want to share the video with people. I want to get the data. There'll be a recap of it. This will probably be one at Real World Fake Data shortly. And here's the URL. And hold on a sec. I will put this in as a banner. And this is where we will have the after party in a moment. So any final thoughts before we move to Zoom, and where we get to hear from all of you?
I just want to say thanks to everybody who participated in this real world fake data project, as well as all the past ones over the past couple of years. It's been a fun thing to do, and hopefully we'll have a couple more challenges here before the end of the year.
Well, and
thank you, everybody.
Agreed, and particularly to the people who put a lot of time and effort into tackling a tough data set. All right, see you at the Zoom meeting soon.